Hey guys, welcome to our DevOps Zero to Job Ready series. Before we jump into day one of DevOps series, let me show you the full roadmap of this DevOps journey because I know some of you might be thinking, where do I even start? What tools should I learn first? How do I prepare for interviews the right way? So don't worry, I have been there. That's why I have created a realistic step by step DevOps roadmap. This is the same roadmap that helped me go from a basic tech support job to 25 lakh DevOps job without any coding background. And yes, this roadmap works even if you are starting from scratch. So let's go from zero to job ready together. Now remember, DevOps is not just about learning a few tools. It's about learning the right things in the right order, especially if you're targeting interviews or career growth. Here's everything that I'll cover in my 100 days of DevOps journey. Let me now break down each one for you in the most simplest way. So, first things first, the DevOps fundamentals. You should first understand what DevOps really means, not just some fancy buzzy words on LinkedIn. So, to get a solid grip, you should know a few things like you should first understand what DevOps really is, why companies use it, what is software development lifecycle, and what are the different methodologies that companies follow, like agile or waterfall model, and most importantly, how DevOps connects the gap between developers, QA, and ops team together. Because these are very basic foundation, and from an entry level interview perspective, also like they often ask questions like how does DevOps improve software delivery? What are the benefits of DevOps in a product company? Questions like this for especially for freshers. Next comes the Linux. Linux is the heart of DevOps, and Linux should be your base layer. You should know it like your best friend because almost all servers and tools in DevOps run on Linux, so it's non negotiable, and you'll use it every single day for managing servers, writing scripts, monitoring stuffs. So you'll be learning things like how a Linux server works, the directory and file system structure, how to set and manage file permissions, running bash commands in the terminal, and editing with vi, and also commands like grep, awk, top, and df commands. Trust me, for an interview perspective, there are always mandatory questions like how do you check CPU or memory usage in Linux? What does chmod 755 mean? Write a command to find errors in a log file, because these are the basic things you will be doing as a DevOps engineer. And next comes the shell script. I mean, basic scripting. So if you are a brand new to DevOps, start with shell scripting. It's the language for the servers. You learn things like how to write simple automation scripts, how to schedule tasks with cron jobs, how to use conditions and loops like if, for, and while conditions, and automating backups, disk checks, log rotation. And later you can learn Python. But for now, shell scripting is much easier to pick up in the beginning. And from an interview perspective, be ready for questions like write a shell script to send an alert if disk space goes above 90%, questions like that. And when you're well versed with Linux, next you learn basic networking fundamental. You don't have to become a network engineer, but you should definitely know the basics like what is an IP address, what is DNS, what is firewall, what are the default ports, and understanding on what happens when you type a URL in your browser, and what is SSH, and how do we use it to access server, things like that. And in terms of interview perspective, you can expect questions like what's the difference between public and private IP, and how does a load balancer work? Explain DNS resolution process. These are some common questions which will be asked for the freshers. And next is to learn Git and GitHub for version control. Git is the backbone of teamwork in DevOps. So you'll use Git every single day. It's how the team collaborate and track changes. So you should know things like how to clone a repository, how to push, how to commit, and how to pull a code. and how to create and manage branches, how to merge code and handle conflicts, how to raise and review pull requests. From an interview perspective, like most asked questions on Git is, what is the difference between Git merge and rebase? How can you undo the last commit? Because these are the basics every DevOps engineer should be well versed with. And next is to master any cloud providers. In DevOps, you'll deploy applications and infrastructure on the cloud, and AWS is the most commonly used platform. So you should master things like how to launch an EC2 server, how to create and use S3 storage buckets, how IAM helps in setting up user permissions, basics on VPCs, security groups, and how to set up load balancers and auto scaling. Because from an interview perspective, you can expect questions like, how do you secure an EC2 instance? What's the difference between S3 and EBS? So these are some common questions that I have come across from past 7 years in my DevOps journey. Next is Docker and containers. This is where things get exciting. You will learn how to containerize your applications using Docker. So you should be having a good understanding on things like what is containerization and why it is useful, how to write Docker file, how to build and run containers, how to push your images to Docker Hub. Because interviewers often ask questions like, how do you reduce the size of a Docker image? What's the real difference between containers and VMs? Questions like that. And once you have mastered Docker, Kubernetes is the next step. It helps you scale and manage your containers. So you will learn things like what are pods, services, deployments, how to write YAML configuration files, and how to use kubectl for managing clusters. Because in interviews, you will be definitely asked on questions like, how does Kubernetes handle rolling updates? What happens when pod crashes? Because these are the everyday things that DevOps engineers will be dealing with. Okay. And next is to understand what is CI/CD, because every company wants faster and safer deployments, and that's what CI/CD brings to the table. So you should know on how to build CI/CD pipelines, how to automate builds and deployments after every commit, and how to use Jenkins, GitLab CI, and even GitHub Actions. From an interview standpoint, you will be asked questions like, how do you trigger a pipeline automatically? What stages do you include in your pipeline? So these are some familiar questions that will be asked. And next is to learn Terraform. This is where you stop clicking buttons and start writing your infrastructure in code. Yes, instead of manually creating cloud infra, we'll write it as a code to launch servers, create storage and VPCs, etc. So you should be learning on things like writing .tf files to define cloud resources, how to create EC2, VPC, S3 using Terraform, and Terraform workflow to plan, apply, and destroy. So, from an interview point of view, you'll get questions like, what's the use of Terraform state file? How is it different from AWS CloudFormation? Things like that. And finally, you need visibility into what's happening in production, right? So, this is where most people skip this and jump straight into interview preparation. You should learn tools like Prometheus, Grafana, CloudWatch, and how to set alerts for CPU, memory, disk usage, and app errors. Because interviewers would love to ask questions like, what metrics do you monitor in production? How do you troubleshoot high CPU usage in a live stream? Questions like that on monitoring. So that's your complete roadmap to become job ready in DevOps with skills company actually hire for. In day one, we'll start from basics like what is DevOps, why it is blooming in 2025, and what makes it such a high paying, high demand career. So don't miss it. It will lay the foundation for everything else in this journey. Thank you. See you in the next video. Bye.